Welcome to Postscript. Here we hope to answer your questions and help you dig deeper into the messages and sermons at Faithbridge by talking with the teacher of the day.
Welcome to Postscript. My name is Michael Sullivan, Business Administrator here at Faithbridge, and I'm joined by Peter Pereira, a missionary from Hope for Today Ministries in India. We're so glad that you're here, and thanks for bringing us a great word this morning, talking about how God is in control. Thanks for being here, Peter.
Thank you.
Well, I know in your message today, it was a beautiful message, really talking about how Jesus enters in to our loneliness, and I loved at the end you were kind of saying, Jesus is the only person who can take a test and turn it into a testimony, a mess and turn it into a message, just a real encouragement to everyone that Jesus is where our hope is. But as someone who's been walking with the Lord for a long time, or maybe that Christian who's been in the room, maybe the tendency is to say, yeah, but Jesus, but what else? I mean, how do I, this world is so broken. Is just Jesus? I mean, this people you talked about with the snake venom and all this crazy stuff that's happening, is there something else or just Jesus?
Well, there's starting with Jesus and it ends with Jesus, and it's a journey.
Yes.
It's a journey.
Okay.
It's not just Jesus. Yes, it is Jesus, but it's a journey with Jesus. And so I think one of the things that we need to understand when we are surrounded by friends who are not following Christ, it's very important for us, those who know the Lord, not to judge other people, not to condemn them.
Right.
We learn from this story that Jesus did not condemn. And he was the only one in that crowd who had the right to condemn her. He was the only one that could have stoned her. But he did not. He balanced that by reminding us that the grace and the love of God is very important. He did not tell her it's okay to go and live the life where you're living, but he says, go and sin no more. Go and don't mess up your life. That's what he was saying. So I don't know when people say it's just Jesus, or no, it begins with Jesus, it ends with Jesus. He who began a good work in you shall also complete it. So it's a journey with Jesus. You just don't come on a scene one day with Jesus and it's over. It's a journey to walk with him. And it's not easy, but we need to keep walking. We fall, but he will help us to rise up again. He's the only one that can help us. That's the key thing for us to remember, not to condemn, not to criticize people, but to help them to see that God is so gracious towards us.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what it means for us.
Yeah, that's good. I think a lot of times it is difficult, when you are a believer and you see sin and that's no longer a part of your life, to be overwhelmed or to judge. But you see Jesus, a great example of walking into the scene, and he knows her past, just like he knows the past of the Pharisees, but he meets her where she is and shows love and grace, and then says, now go leave your life of sin and live a new life, like you said. So that's good. That's helpful. Thank you, Peter. Kind of switching gears a little bit away from the message, let's talk about your ministry, Hope for Today, and your partnership with ILI, and maybe, I know you shared a little bit about the 5,800 house churches and the 24,000 people who have come to know Christ, which is all amazing and fantastic, but tell the people a little bit, how does that take place? What is your ministry doing over in India specifically?
The key thing for us in the work that we're doing is to train the people. And I think this is the model that Jesus did. He was training the people.
Right.
We are aggressively helping people understand what the Bible teaches on leadership.
Okay.
We have these 8 core values from International Leadership Institute. The first conference was done in India. And now within 17 years, we are more than in 60 countries, and all the partners are working. God's hand is on this material. God's hand is on Dr. Wes and Joy Griffin. They're the ones who started this, and I was with them from the very beginning. But these 8 core values, very simple. but yet it touches the hearts of the people. When they listen in a class, they come with great expectation, thinking that we're going to teach them something rocket science to be a leader. But the first core value is to teach them to say, do we have an intimate relationship with God? If I'm a leader, if I'm going to lead God's people, it's not about leading people. Do I have a right relationship with God? Am I intimate with God? Am I walking with Him so I can lead His people? So when they listen to that such core values, they begin to realize that I never thought like this. You know, in my own journey, I'm a workaholic. I think the more I do for God, I'm with God. But working for God, being with God is two different things.
Yes.
So if I spend more time with Him, I can get more done in a shorter time. And I realized this in the last, few couple of years, that being with Him is more important.
It's a good
And
word.
God began to multiply the work. So we are aggressively training people, helping them to become excellent leaders
Yeah.
to serve God. And that's the calling that we have. So 8 core values on the leadership model, we teach people to do that.
And I actually had the opportunity to go to Siliguri, India this summer, and I know probably people would be interested in who are coming to these classes. Is this pastors, or who are the people that you're inviting to these conferences and teaching these 8 core values to?
We're inviting pastors, lay leaders, anyone that is a Christian wants to serve the Lord. And I think when people understand these 8 core values, they become an excellent leader. Because I think the 8 core values speaks to the hearts of the people. And we tell them, I tell my team, I said, we're not just going there sharing the notes. We don't do that. I tell my team, I said, we need to practice this. When we teach, it is coming out. We are pouring from inside out. It's not the notes.
Right.
We always feel we can never meet the mark of being intimate with God. As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth. I mean, we keep longing for more and more. But I think those 8 core values help us to become great leaders. If you're close to the Lord, do you have passion for the lost? As a leader, you're a leader. Most people think leaders are boss, getting things done.
Yep.
And I've reached to a place in my ministry, but really, are you reaching the lost? What is your role in reaching the lost? How are you helping the least and the lost? What's your role? You may not be a preacher, but do you have this passion in you to help the people, to see the lost come to know Christ, to help the least know the Lord? So these are some of the challenges we are teaching people, and it is really revolutionizing the leaders.
Yeah, they get so excited, and really what's neat is you teach them this curriculum, and then you're empowering them to be able to take the curriculum back and teach others as well in their towns and their villages, right?
Exactly. That's what we do this as a national conference, and then we ask them to go and do a regional conference in their own language. Now I think in India we have about 7 or 8 languages we translated this book.
Amazing. That's amazing.
And people love to hear in their language. It's the heart language.
Sure.
And they hear in their language, about leadership and the core values. They're stirred up. I've seen people in their tribal places, tribal people, their hearts are stirred up. And so amazing testimonies we are hearing from people.
Yeah, it was really neat being in Siliguri because it's way up in that top right corner of India that's near Nepal and Bhutan and even not far from China, which I was amazed by. And so you're right. I think it was the first actually national conference where I think there were 4 or 5 languages or countries represented, and thus 4 or 5 different languages. And then so cool, the last night some guys came in and they each got to perform, kind of a signature to their country. And so it was just a really neat cultural experience. And again, knowing, okay, these people, when we train them, are now about to go out and multiply. And that's really exciting. What other things are you excited about? What are you looking forward to as you think about maybe even looking into 2018? What are some exciting things that your ministry is pushing towards?
We are pushing now towards the younger generation that is so eager to want to serve the Lord. I've met some graduates from engineering colleges and other places. They somehow feel tugged to serve the Lord.
Huh.
They want to go and serve the Lord. I don't know how to explain what it means. Their calling is so personal, so individual from the Lord, but they're eager to serve the Lord. I was in a conference the other day in India where I was speaking to about 4,000 young people. They were packed. They came from 10 different states to one small town, really small town. And God gave me the grace and a privilege to speak to them, and they were just thrilled to hear the journey for the younger generation. So we are praying that younger generation would be excited, because it's a time that they be recognized that God is moving in the lives of the younger generation.
Yeah.
It's the time for the younger generation to take up the baton and to start running.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's really cool. So are you doing that through your History Makers conference, or how are you reaching the younger generation?
Through History Makers conference primarily, and through other meetings that I go to churches to speak to the younger generations, I'm addressing this and asking them to take up the load and to lead this ministries for the younger generation. It's a little hard for the older generation to give room, especially in the culture that we live in. It's not easy for people to give room for the younger generation.
Yeah.
That's my prayer, that we start getting out of the way of our journeys and giving room for the younger generation so they can do wonderful things. These young kids can do wonderful things, I'm just eagerly waiting for these younger guys to come on board and do the ministries.
That's great. I mean, when you have the wisdom of the old with the energy of the young, there really is, God can do some great things. That's awesome. Well, Peter, it's always a treat to have you here. Just such a blessing to have you here on this Fall Fun Day Sunday, and thank you for being here with us at Postscript.
Thank you so much. It's always a blessing to be at Faithbridge.
Absolutely. And thank you for tuning in today. We'll be back next week with Ben Stewart as we continue on in this fall season. So thanks for being here, and goodbye.
Thanks for joining us for Postscript. Help us keep the podcast interactive by submitting your questions during the morning services. Learn more at faithbridge.org/postscript.